I looked up from my laptop where I'd been pretending to work on a freelance project. My roommate Jordan was pacing around our living room with the kind of manic energy he only got when he was really excited about something. "Love who?" I asked, already dreading the answer. Jordan's enthusiasms were legendary and often involved me being dragged to things. I had no interest in underground electronic music shows, experimental theater. That one time he convinced me to try aerial yoga. Ethan, my best friend from high school. I told you he was moving back to Portland, remember? I did remember, vaguely. Jordan had mentioned it a few weeks ago, but I'd been in the middle of a deadline crisis and hadn't really processed the information. Right, I said slowly. And I'm going to love him because he's amazing, smart, he's funny, he's got great taste in music, and he's basically the most loyal person I know. Jordan flopped onto the couch. We've been best friends since we were 15. He moved to Denver for college and then stayed there for work. But now he got this incredible job offer here and he's moving back. I haven't seen him regularly in almost 10 years, man. I'm so pumped. I smiled at Jordan's enthusiasm. He and I had been roommates for about a year and a half, and in that time, we'd become genuine friends. He was a graphic novelist and part-time barista, effortlessly cool in that way some people just are, with his shaggy blonde hair, a collection of vintage band t-shirts, an ability to talk to literally anyone about anything. That's great, I said sincerely. When does he get here? Next week. And actually, I wanted to ask you something. Jordan sat up, looking slightly sheepish. His lease on his new apartment doesn't start until September 1st. But he needs to be here earlier for work orientation. Would you be cool if he crashed on our couch for like 10 days? I glanced at our admittedly comfortable couch, then back at Jordan. We had the Space Hour 2-bedroom apartment in inner southeast Portland, was more spacious than most rentals we could afford. And Jordan rarely asked me for favors. Yeah, that's fine, I said. As long as he's cool with me being antisocial when I'm on deadline. He's a software engineer. He gets it. Jordan grinned. Thanks, Alex. Seriously, you're going to like him, I promise. Ethan arrived on a sunny Saturday afternoon, pulling up in a loaded U-Haul truck with Colorado plates. I was sitting on our apartment's front steps, drinking iced coffee and reading. When the truck parked across the street, the driver's side, door opened, and I got my first look at Jordan's mysterious best friend. He was tall, maybe 6, one with dark curly hair that looked like it could never quite be tamed. Olive skin and the kind of build that suggested regular gym attendance without crossing into obsessive territory. He wore dark jeans and a faded, gray t-shirt, and even from a distance, I could see he had an easy, confident way of moving. Jordan burst out of the apartment building behind me like he'd been shot from a cannon. Ethan. The guy's face split into a huge grin. Jordan. They met in the middle of the street in one of those elaborate handshake-hug combinations that guys who've been friends forever tend to develop. I watched them, smiling at their obvious affection for each other. Man, you look exactly the same, Jordan said, stepping back to look at Ethan. You're a liar, but I appreciate it, Ethan laughed. You grew your hair out? It's very Portland of you. I'm embracing the aesthetic. Jordan turned and gestured to me. Come meet Alex. Alex, this is Ethan. Ethan, this is Alex, my roommate, and the person who graciously agreed to let you invade our space. I stood and walked over, suddenly aware that I was in my most worn-out joggers and a t-shirt with a coffee stain. Ethan's eyes met mine, and I noticed they were a striking dark brown. It's almost black, with long lashes that any person would envy. Hey, he said, extending his hand. Thanks for letting me crash. I promise I'm a low-maintenance house guest. You won't even know I'm there. His handshake was firm and warm. No problem, I said. Welcome to Portland. Thanks. He smiled, and I noticed he had a slightly crooked front tooth that somehow made his smile more appealing rather than less. Jordan's told me a lot about you. Apparently, you're some kind of writing genius? I felt my face heat up. Jordan exaggerates. I'm a freelance writer and editor. Mostly corporate content, nothing genius about it. Don't let him downplay it, Jordan interjected. He's being modest. Alex writes for some major publications on the side. Just doesn't like talking about it because he's weird about success. I'm not weird about success, I started, but Ethan laughed. It's cool, man. I get it. Never know what to say when people ask me what I do either. I write code sounds way less interesting than it actually is. He glanced at the loaded truck. Speaking of which, should we probably start unloading before someone tickets this thing? I parked in a loading zone. The three of us spent the next hour hauling boxes and bags from the truck to our apartment. Ethan traveled surprisingly light for someone moving across states, mostly clothes, books, and technical equipment. No furniture except for a very nice-looking office chair. Sold most of my stuff, he explained when Jordan commented on it. Seemed easier than moving everything. I'll figure out the furniture situation once I have my own place. By the time we finished, we were all sweaty and ready for a break. Jordan suggested we order pizza and hang out, and since I didn't have any plans, I agreed. This is where I started to understand what Jordan meant about Ethan being easy to like, over pizza and beer. Ethan told stories about his time in Denver, his job at a tech startup that had been exciting but ultimately dysfunctional. Failed. Attempt to learn skiing. His brief and disastrous relationship with a woman named Melissa, who turned out to be more interested in his roommate. Wait, Jordan said, nearly choking on his beer. You dated someone for 3 months and didn't realize she was into Trevor the whole time? In my defense, I was working like 80-hour weeks and barely conscious, Ethan protested. And Trevor was always around because we were roommates. I thought they were just becoming friends. How did you find out? I asked, drawn into the story despite myself. Ethan grimaced. Came home early one day and found them in a compromising position on our kitchen counter, which, aside from the obvious betrayal, was deeply unhygienic. I bleached that counter so many times. That's awful, I said, though I couldn't help laughing a little at the way he told it. Hey, it was for the best. We weren't really compatible anyway. She was super outdoorsy and wanted to go hiking every weekend. I'm more of a sit inside and read kind of person. He glanced at me. Jordan mentioned, you're also not really the outdoorsy type? God, no. I went camping once and spent the entire weekend convinced I was going to die from either bears or hypothermia. It was 60 degrees, and we were in a designated campground with facilities, Jordan added. There were sounds at night. I defended, unidentified sounds. Ethan laughed, a genuine, uninhibited sound that made something warm bloom in my chest. I respect that. The wilderness is overrated. Give me climate control and reliable Wi-Fi any day. We talked for hours that night, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Ethan was well-read, funny, and had the rare quality of being genuinely interested in other people. He asked me about my writing, about how I'd ended up in Portland, about my family and background, and he actually listened to the answers. Following up with thoughtful questions, by the time we all finally went to bed around 1 a.m., I had to admit Jordan had been right. Ethan was easy to love. What I didn't realize yet was just how easy it would be. The thing about having a house guest even, a temporary one, is that you can't avoid them. Your paths cross in ways both mundane and intimate. You see them in the morning before they're fully awake, their hair messy and their defenses down. You learn their routines, their quirks, their habits. With Ethan, this education began immediately. Day 1, I discovered he was an early riser, up by 6, even though he didn't have to be at work until 9. I stumbled into the kitchen around 7, to find him already showered and dressed, making coffee with the kind of precision usually reserved for scientific experiments. Morning, he said, looking up with a smile. Want some? I made extra. Your lifesaver, I mumbled, still half asleep. He poured me a mug and handed it over. I took a sip and nearly groaned. It was perfect strong, but not bitter, with just a hint of sweetness. How did you know I take sugar? I asked. Noticed yesterday when you made coffee. You do about half a teaspoon. He said it casually, like it was normal to pay that much attention. Day 2, I learned he was meticulously clean. He made his bed. On the couch every morning, folding the sheets and blankets into a neat pile on the floor. He washed his dishes immediately after using them. He even wiped down the bathroom counter after brushing his teeth. Sorry, he said when he caught me watching him clean up after breakfast. I know I'm kind of obsessive about this stuff. Old habit from growing up with 3 younger siblings. If you didn't clean up immediately, the chaos would consume everything. Day 3, I discovered he sang in the shower. Not just humming, but actual singing, sometimes pop songs. Sometimes what sounded like show tunes, always slightly off-key but with complete commitment. "Did I hear you singing Hamilton this morning?" I asked that evening when Jordan was at work. Ethan looked embarrassed. "You could hear that. God, sorry. I didn't think the walls were that thin." Don't apologize. It was actually kind of nice. Better than my usual wake-up sound of garbage trucks." He grinned. "Well, in that case, tomorrow I'll take requests." Day 4, we had our first real conversation alone. Jordan had picked up a rare evening shift at the coffee shop, and Ethan and I both happened to be home. I was working on an article in my room when I heard a knock on my door. "Hey," Ethan said when I opened it. "Sorry to bug you. Are you in the middle of something important?" "Just finishing up." "What's up?" "I was about to make dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta and I thought you might want some. Since Jordan's not here and it seems silly to cook just for myself." I hesitated for only a second. I'd been planning to just heat up leftovers, and the idea of actual freshly cooked food was appealing. Plus, if I was being honest, I'd been looking for an excuse to spend more time with Ethan. "It sounds great, actually. Can I help?" We ended up cooking together, moving around the kitchen with surprising ease. Ethan chopped vegetables while I started the pasta water. We worked in comfortable near silence, punctuated by occasional questions. "Where do you keep the olive oil? Do you like garlic? Is this enough basil? Or should I add more?" Closing parenthesis. It felt domestic in a way that probably should have been weird but somehow wasn't. Over dinner, we talked about our families. Ethan told me about growing up as the oldest of 4 kids in suburban Seattle, about the pressure and the joy of that role, about how he'd left for college partly because he needed to figure out who he was outside of being the responsible big brother. I told him about my much quieter upbringing as an only child in a small town in Ohio, about parents who loved me but never quite understood my need to write, about moving to Portland 5 years ago because I needed to be somewhere that felt more like home than the place I grew up. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked, moving so far away. "Sometimes, mostly during holidays or when something big happens and I realize how far I am from the people who've known me longest. But then I remember what it felt like to live somewhere I didn't fit, and I know I made the right choice." "What about you? Are you glad to be back in the Pacific Northwest?" "Yeah," he said without hesitation. "Denver was fine, but it never felt quite right. Too dry, too focused on outdoor stuff I'm not into, and I missed being near Jordan, honestly. We stayed in touch, but it's not the same as being able to just hang out whenever. He's one of my favorite people. Talks about you a lot too," I said. "In a good way. You can tell how much he values your friendship." Ethan smiled. "We've been through a lot together. He's the friend who knows all your worst moments and still shows up. That's rare." Something in the way he said it made me curious. "What do you mean, worst moments?" He was quiet for a second, considering. I came out to him first. When we were 17, it didn't go great with my family, especially my dad. Jordan was the one who made sure I knew I wasn't alone. Let me crash at his house for a week when things got really bad. Never made a big deal about it, just was there. "I didn't know that," I said softly. "That you were... I trailed off, not sure how to finish the sentence. "Gay." He said it matter-of-factly. "Yeah, I thought Jordan might have mentioned it, but maybe he figured I should tell you myself. He probably did." I felt something shift in the air between us, though I couldn't name what it was. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you had someone like Jordan. And I'm sorry your family was difficult about it. They've gotten better. Or at least we've all learned to coexist around the topic. My mom came around pretty quickly. My dad. We're working on it." He met my eyes. "What about you? Jordan mentioned you're gay too, but we've never talked about it directly." "Yeah, I am. I came out in college. My parents were confused but supportive in their way. They still don't really get it, but they try." I paused. "It's strange, isn't it? How we build these chosen families because our biological ones can't always give us what we need. Strange but necessary," Ethan agreed. "I don't know what I would have done without the friends who became family." We stayed at the table long after we'd finished eating, talking about everything and nothing. Ethan told me about his worst dating experiences, so many. He joked, that he could write a book. I told him about the novel I'd been working on for 3 years and couldn't seem to finish. We discovered we'd both read and loved the same obscure science fiction series. We debated the best pizza toppings with the intensity usually reserved for political discussions by the time Jordan got home around 11. I realized with surprise that 4 hours had passed. "Did you guys have fun without me?" Jordan asked, dropping his keys on the counter. "We survived," Ethan said with mock solemnity, though it wasn't easy. "Alex made sure I didn't burn down the kitchen," I added. "Actually, it was the other way around," Ethan corrected. And something about the way he smiled at me made my stomach flip. The remaining days of Ethan's stay followed a similar pattern. We'd cross paths in the mornings, sometimes cook dinner together when Jordan was working, stay up late talking about books and movies, and the general absurdity of existence. I told myself it was just friendship, that the warmth I felt when Ethan laughed at my jokes was just appreciation for a kindred spirit, that the way I'd started timing my coffee making to coincide with his was just practical. But on day 7, something happened that made it harder to lie to myself. Jordan had gone to visit his parents for the night, leaving Ethan and me alone in the apartment. It was a Friday evening, and neither of us had plans. We decided to watch a movie Ethan's choice, since I'd picked the night before. He chose a romantic comedy, which surprised me. "What?" he said when he caught my expression. "I contain multitudes. Plus, this one is actually good. It's smart and funny, and the leads have real chemistry." He was right, it was good. We sat on the couch with takeout Thai food, making running commentary on the film, laughing at the same moments. At some point, we'd both ended up in the middle of the couch, close enough that our arms occasionally brushed. I was intensely aware of each point of contact. About halfway through the movie, during a particularly romantic scene, Ethan said quietly, "This is what I want, you know?" "What do you mean?" "This kind of connection, where two people just ... fit. Where it's easy and comfortable, but also exciting. Where you can be completely yourself and someone still chooses you." He was still looking at the screen, not at me. "I keep dating people and it never quite feels like this. Like there's always something missing." "Maybe you're looking in the wrong places," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Maybe." He finally turned to look at me, and something in his expression made my breath catch. Or maybe I've been looking right past what's in front of me. The air between us felt electric. For a moment, just a moment, I thought he might kiss me. I thought I might let him. Hell, I thought I might be the one to close the distance. But then his phone rang. Shattering the moment, he glanced at the screen and grimaced. "Sorry, it's my mom." I should take this, of course. I got up and went out onto our small balcony to talk. I sat there, heart racing, trying to process what had almost happened. Or what I thought had almost happened. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe I'd read too much into a simple comment and a look. When Ethan came back 15 minutes later, the moment had passed. We finished the movie making casual conversation, and then both went to bed early, claiming tiredness. I lay awake for a long time that night, staring at my ceiling, trying not to think about the fact that Ethan was sleeping just on the other side of my wall. The 10th and final night of Ethan's stay arrived faster than I'd expected. His apartment was ready, and he'd arranged to move his stuff in the next morning. Jordan had suggested we all go out to celebrate Ethan's last night on the couch, but Ethan had to work late. Dealing with some crisis at his new job, Jordan and I were watching TV when Ethan finally got home around 10 p.m., looking exhausted and frustrated. "Rough night?" Jordan asked. "You have no idea." Ethan dropped his bag by the door and ran his hands through his hair. "I love this job, but the learning curve is intense. I spent the last 4 hours troubleshooting code that someone else wrote badly, and I still don't have it fully fixed. That sucks, man. Want a beer?" God, yes. The three of us hung out for a while, but Jordan had an early morning shift and headed to bed around 11. That left Ethan and me alone again. "Sorry we didn't get to go out tonight," I said. "We could still do something tomorrow to celebrate your newfound independence." "I'd like that." He was quiet for a moment. "Though honestly, I'm going to miss this. Being here, I mean. Really? I figured you'd be excited to have your own space again." "I am, but..." He trailed off, seeming to search for words. "It's It's been nice being around you and Jordan. Feeling like part of something instead of just existing alone in my apartment. I'd forgotten what that was like. You're always welcome here, I said. I mean it. You don't need an excuse or an invitation. Just show up. Dangerous offer. I might take you up on that. I hope you do. We smiled at each other, and there was that electricity again. That sense of something unspoken hanging between us. Alex. Ethan said slowly, "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "The other night during the movie, did you feel he stopped, shook his head?" "Never mind. It's late. I'm tired. I'm not making sense." But I knew what he'd been about. To ask because I'd been wondering the same thing. And maybe it was the lateness of the hour, or the knowledge that this was our last night like this, or just the accumulated weight of 10 days of growing feelings I'd been trying to ignore. "I felt it too," I said quietly. Ethan looked at me, his expression unreadable. Yeah. So what do we do about that?" It was the question I'd been avoiding. Because what could we do? He was Jordan's best friend. He'd just moved here and was starting a new job. I was terrible at relationships and even worse at casual things. There were so many reasons why this was a bad idea, but sitting there, looking at Ethan, looking at me, all those reasons seemed distant and theoretical compared to the very real want coursing through me. "I don't know," I admitted. "What do you want to do about it?" He moved closer on the couch, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "I want to be honest with you. These past 10 days have been ... unexpected. I came here planning to crash on Jordan's couch and start my new job, and that was it. I wasn't looking for anything. But then I met you, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." Said it simply, like it was just a fact. "The way you laugh at my dumb jokes. How you sing along to songs when you think no one's listening. The face you make when you're writing and you're really in the zone. I know it's fast. I know there are complications. But I couldn't let tonight pass without telling you." My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure he could hear it. "Ethan, you don't have to say anything," he interrupted gently. "I just needed you to know. And if you don't feel the same way, or if you do but think we shouldn't act on it, I understand. We can just forget I said anything and go back to being friends. Could you?" I asked. "Just go back to being friends." "Honestly, no, but I'd try. Because having you in my life as a friend is better than not having you at all." I should have been careful. I should have thought about all the complications, all the ways this could go wrong. I should have protected myself. Instead, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. For a second he froze, like he couldn't believe it was happening. Then he was kissing me back, one hand coming up to cup my face, and it felt like every romance novel cliché I'd ever rolled my eyes at. Fireworks, electricity, coming home. We broke apart after a moment, both slightly breathless. "I've wanted to do that since day 3, I admitted. "Day 3? I've got you beat." "Day 2, he smiled, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. "When you stumbled out of your room all sleepy and confused, and I realized you were even more beautiful in the morning. Flattery will get you everywhere. I'm counting on it." We kissed again, slower this time, savoring it. When we finally pulled apart, reality started creeping back in. "We should probably talk about this," Ethan said, though he made no move to put distance between us. "Probably." "Jordan will be fine with it," I said, surprising myself with the certainty. "He's the least judgmental person I know. And he loves both of us. He'd want us to be happy." "You're right." Ethan laced his fingers through mine. "What about the speed of this? Does it freak you out?" "Terrifies me," I admitted. "I'm usually so careful. I don't do impulsive. I analyze everything to death. But with you it doesn't feel impulsive. It feels ... inevitable. Like we were always going to end up here." "I feel the same way." Pressed a kiss to my temple. "So what now?" "Now ... I thought about it. Now, we take it one day at a time. You get settled into your apartment. I finish this impossible article I'm working on. We go on actual dates. We figure out what this is without putting too much pressure on it. That sounds reasonable and mature. I have my moments." He laughed and pulled me closer. Can I stay here tonight? On the couch, I mean. One last time? You can stay wherever you want. Dangerous offer number 2. I'm full of them tonight. Oh. We ended up staying on the couch, tangled together, talking and kissing and talking some more until the sun started to lighten the sky outside. It should have been awkward, or too much too fast, but it wasn't. It was perfect. Around 6 a.m., we finally admitted we should probably try to sleep for a couple hours. Ethan reluctantly untangled himself and lay down on the couch while I stumbled to my room. Just before I closed my door, he called out softly, Alex. Yeah? I'm really glad I needed a place to crash. Me too. I fell asleep with a smile on my face, thinking that 10 days ago, I'd been worried about having a house guest disrupt my routine. Now I couldn't imagine my routine without him in it. I woke up to the sound of voices in the living room, Ethan and Jordan, laughing about something. For a disorienting moment, I wondered if the previous night had been a dream. Then I noticed the text on my phone from Ethan, sent just 20 minutes earlier. Morning. We should probably tell Jordan before he figures it out on his own. He's weirdly perceptive. Also, I can't stop smiling, and that's definitely suspicious. I smiled at my phone like an idiot, then forced myself out of bed. When I emerged from my room, both Jordan and Ethan were in the kitchen. Ethan was making coffee, of course, and Jordan was eating cereal straight from the box. Good morning, sunshine, Jordan said. You're up early for a Saturday. Couldn't sleep, I lied, catching Ethan's eye. He bit back a smile. You're just in time to say goodbye. Ethan's about to head to his new place. Jordan crunched thoughtfully. Though I have to say, he seems weirdly cheerful for someone who just worked until 10 p.m. and then slept on our uncomfortable couch. It's a very comfortable couch. Ethan protested. You've complained about it every single morning. Maybe it grew on me. Couldn't help laughing. And Jordan's eyes narrowed suspiciously as he looked between us. Okay, what's going on? You two are being weird. Ethan and I exchanged a glance. We'd known this conversation was coming, but I'd thought we'd have a little more time to prepare. Need to talk to you about something, Ethan said carefully. Jordan set down his cereal box, his expression shifting to concern. Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Better than fine, actually. Ethan looked at me for support. I took a breath. Jordan, something happened between Ethan and me. Last night. We... We kissed and talked, and we like each other. As more than friends. Jordan blinked, looked at Ethan, looked at me, looked back at Ethan, then he burst out laughing. Oh my God, he said, still laughing. Oh my God, finally. Do you know how painful it's been watching you to dance around each other for the past week and a half? I thought I was going to have to lock you in a closet together.
Ow.
I stared at him. Wait, you knew? Of course I knew. I'm not blind. Ethan, you've been making hard eyes at Alex since day 2. And Alex, you started showering regularly and wearing actual clothes instead of your usual depression hoodie. You only do that when you're trying to impress someone. I shower regularly. I protested weakly. You shower regularly during the week. Weekend hygiene is usually optional for you. Ethan was grinning. You're really okay with this? Why wouldn't I be? You're both my favorite people. If you make each other happy, that's like the best possible outcome? Jordan paused. Unless you hurt each other. Then I'll be forced to be awkward and take sides, and I don't want to do that, so please don't make me. We'll try not to, I promised. Good. Jordan grabbed his cereal box again. So, are you two, like, dating now? Is this a thing? Ethan and I looked at each other. We're figuring it out, I said. Taking it slow. You're taking it slow after knowing each other for 10 days? Jordan raised an eyebrow. Interesting definition of slow. Shut up, I said, but I was smiling. I'm happy for you guys, really. Jordan looked sincere now. You're good for each other. I could see it. After that, the morning became a whirlwind of activity. We helped Ethan load his stuff into his car and followed him to his new apartment, one bedroom in a building about 15 minutes away from us. It was a nice place, recently renovated, with big windows and exposed brick. This is great, I said, looking around the empty space. Way better than our place. Yeah, But your place has you in it, Ethan said, then looked embarrassed. Sorry, was that too much? No, I said softly. It was perfect. Jordan made a gagging sound. Okay, I'm leaving before you to get any sappier. Ethan, I'm working tonight, but let's hang out tomorrow. Alex, I'll see you at home. Try not to pine, too, obviously. After he left, Ethan and I stood in his empty apartment, suddenly shy with each other in a way we hadn't been the night before. So, he said, want to help me unpack? Fair warning, I have no idea where anything should go. And I'm probably going to need to buy furniture. Would love to help you unpack. We spent the rest of the day setting up his apartment, taking breaks to order lunch and make numerous trips to Target for basic necessities. It was domestic and easy, and every time our hands brushed, reaching for the same box, or our eyes met across a room, I felt that same flutter of excitement around dinner time. Ethan suggested we take a break and get food. There's this Thai place around the corner I've been wanting to try, he said, unless you're sick of me and want to go home. Not even a little bit sick of you. The restaurant was small and cozy, with string lights and mismatched furniture. We ordered too much food and talked about everything: his first week at work, my upcoming deadline, plans for the rest of the weekend. Can I ask you something? Ethan said as we were finishing our meal. Always. What made you kiss me last night? I'm glad you did, obviously. But you seemed so careful before, like you were holding back. What changed? I thought about how to answer honestly. I realized I was more afraid of not taking the chance than I was of things going wrong. You were leaving the next day, and I couldn't stand the thought of you walking out without knowing how I felt. Even if it was risky, even if it was fast, it felt like the moment to be brave. I'm glad you were. He reached across the table and took my hand. I know this is all happening quickly, and I know there are a million ways it could get complicated, but I haven't felt this way about someone in maybe ever. It feels import.